Welcome to our podcast, The Movement Odyssey, a collection of journeys through dance.
And today we are joined by the infamous Girard Holt. Thank you, Girard, for doing this once
You're
again.
welcome. And you left me out in the cold on my way here.
I'm going to apologize in advance. We're going to be laughing.
We're going to be
through this whole
giggling.
thing.
Ask some homeless man, like, do you know where Media Center is? He said, no.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay.
All right, so this is podcast number 3 of our series interviewing faculty at Point Park University of the dance department. And we are here with Girard Holt today. Say hi.
Hi.
And first clarification, because while looking you up online, there was GE and GI.
I'm not telling. Nope.
No, what?
Why?
No, because
No.
factual places have you as GE too, and GI. I think it's GI.
I think it's GE.
You think it's
I think
GE.
it's GE.
It's a mystery.
Why?
No, I
Oh,
knew you probably kept it a mystery on purpose.
I'm not telling.
You're really not going to tell us?
Well, I mean, maybe at the end.
Okay.
Okay, we'll learn.
Maybe.
All right.
All right, so we're just going to jump into it. We found some information.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
It's hard. You're a man of mystery here,
Oh, yeah.
Gerard.
Okay.
You are.
Okay.
Right, but we found a 2018 interview where you spoke on how both your father and grandfather were talented jazz musicians.
Yes, they
Would
were.
you accredit their musical talents for your early interest in the performing arts?
Not so much my grandfather, because by the time I rolled around, my grandfather was already he was already in his late 70s or almost into his 80s. I think my grandfather, I think he passed when he was, I want to say mid 80s. So so not so much him. My father, sort of. I would probably say, for me, when I was first starting out, I think the first thing that I wanted to do was, in terms of the arts, was I wanted to be an actor, and then my parents, my dad, so to speak, being a musician and stuff, and so was my great uncles. They were kind of like, well, my dad and my mom was like, well, you kind of gonna need to do more than that, because actors at that time were what they called back in the day, I guess you still call them that, were triple threats. They could act, they could sing, they could dance, and I have no singing talent whatsoever.
It's okay, me neither.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I started out, in dancing, in Connecticut. I started out in a kind of like a community group, and they brought in, they got a grant. They brought in Connecticut Dance Theater, and Connecticut Dance Theater. Well, their foundation was modern, but they were brought in to teach ballet, and so they also got a grant to help further this all along, and that grant brought in DTH. And at that time, DTH was directed by Arthur Mitchell, and the co-director was Carl Shook, and Carl Shook himself came. And the grant allowed for him to come in at least once a month. And so by the, as it got towards the summer, he selected like a group of us and gave us a scholarship, gave us a summer scholarship to go to DTH for the summer. And I was 12. So it kind of started like that. And then as you know, summer sessions, summer intensive, they only go for so long. So obviously I had to come back home, and but the summer was still, it was like August, I guess I want to say end of July, August. So part of that part of the program or part of that grant meant that we could go to Hartford Ballet School. And so to finish out the summer, those of us that came back, to Connecticut, we went to Hartford Ballet for the rest of the summer. And then they looked at me and they said,
Oh, God.
"You're a little talented, so
Just a tad.
we're going to shut the door." And they locked me in the closet.
I was like,
I fully believed
I
that.
fully believe.
And that's kind of where it went. So my parents, although they they weren't dance parents. I mean, they're in my day there wasn't any, we didn't really call them dance moms or dance dads or anything like that, like you all or like they have today. We call them stage parents, but my parents weren't really stage parents at all. I mean, they really didn't know dance per se. My dad and my parents knew the business, the entertainment industry, but the ballet was different. The dance industry is kind of different. So they learned. They really did. They learned as I went along. So that's kind of how that happened.
All right. So you left off with talking about Hartford Ballet Company. So how was navigating the climate of that artistic space, not only being so young, but one of the only Black and male people in that space?
Getting used to the ballet culture, is
It's an adjustment.
It's hard.
It's an adjustment.
It's
It's an adjustment, and it was an adjustment for me. So there were myself and Marcus McGregor. We were the two Black guys, coming up in the school at the time. Although Marcus, I remember Marcus left and moved to New York. So yeah, there was a period there where I was in school. I'm the only black African American dancer there in the school. It was interesting. I want to say it really got it got more interesting when I got a little older, because when I was 16, I got an apprenticeship with the company. I got my first.
Very impressive.
I was
At the
gonna
age of
say, oh my
16
God,
to
just
get
starting
a
young.
contract?
Yeah, that was my first professional job. So, and I was in a private Catholic school, high school. So I was a junior in high school. So that's when the navigation, as you call it, got tricky, because even though, and especially back in those days, even though I was an apprentice, I was still in the school. So I still had all of my school responsibilities that I had to do, all of my school classes that I had to take, ballet, pas, variations, and stuff like that. But then also on top of that, I had company rehearsals and things like that I had to attend. And then on top of that, I had school stuff that I had to attend, and I think that was the hardest, because. Of course, back we're talking some 35, almost 35 years ago, they weren't.
Just air it out.
This little smirk you got. Go on.
Well, they weren't. They weren't sensitive to that kind of thing. I mean, I remember I got in trouble because I had midterms, and I missed a rehearsal. And I literally, I finished my midterm, and I remember getting on the bus and getting downtown and then running in, and I got dressed as fast as I could, and I got in the rehearsal, but the rehearsal was over, and the associate artistic director just lit into me, about missing rehearsal and stuff like that, and so. so those kinds of things were difficult, but
Well, not only dealing with that, but a lot of the racial discrimination or remarks that you probably had to deal with at that age. I feel like that took a lot of strength. And I feel like, not like we don't have that strength today, but how do you think that dancers, current and future, should balance having that strength and endurance with speaking up and sparking change?
Well, let me just the first part of that, the racial comments. So, I think because I was young, it didn't. It probably I don't think it hit me in the same way that it would probably hit you guys today. And part of that could have been because I could have been naive, but just like you guys, well, when you were freshmen, you had one-on-ones with us, and ballet school, you generally have evaluations, either at the end of somewhere, you have evaluations. Let's put it that way. And I remember my evaluation when I was going to be hired. And, it was me, my mother, and my father, Michael Utoff, who was at the time the artistic director of the company, and then Enid Lynn, who was the school director, and Diane Fleming, who was one of the principal teachers, and Serpa Salentino. Like, they were all in there. They were all in there. And I remember Michael saying that, they were intending on hiring me and things like that. And I remember him saying, now, he said to my parents, he goes, Girard's very talented, blah, blah, blah. And we'd like to hire him, as an apprentice, so on and so forth. But he said, if there is a part that requires a blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy, we can't use him for that. But other things, he'll be fine. And now that struck my mom and my dad as,
Yeah.
not, they weren't happy about that. Me, I think I was just sort of like, I got a job.
You were like, I'm gonna do what it takes.
I wasn't, and plus, I was kind of, I was, those things are very stressful, evaluations and stuff like that, especially when you've got, you're all your teachers in there, and they all have an opinion, or they all have something to say. So that didn't strike me right away, and to be honest with you, that Michael's comment really didn't strike me until I got a little bit older. It struck my parents, though, because they were, they weren't, like I said, they weren't happy about that comment, but it was obviously something that I wanted to do, so they kind of let it go. But so yeah, I think on some parts of it, and I can't really say that the company members themselves ever made me feel uncomfortable. I guess that's a good word, to use.
But it's more administration.
Oh, at times, definitely at times.
But
go ahead, the other part of your question.
Well, I have a little question about that part real quick. Sorry, but
No.
do you think the reason why it didn't strike you that hard as a kid is because maybe you wanted this opportunity so bad? And I feel like when you're in an environment where that seemed as normal and like they hold a position of power and you're striving for it, you're kind of like not trying to please them, but it's like you're willing to let a lot of things go just to be seen in good graces.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, there were a lot of things that were said. By the way, in the school as well. One of my good friends was a black girl, Rena Robinson. And there were a lot of things that we didn't tell our parents because we didn't want our parents to come down and make a scene. And because we knew that if we told our parents some of the things that they said, they would come down and, they would,
Defend their kid, and you'd probably
Lose your job.
or be
well,
blackballed.
yeah, for sure. I mean, they, you just knew that they wouldn't, you
Yeah.
You didn't want to say, well, Michael said this and Michael said. I mean, a very quick story. I mean, we were doing Nutcracker and the company and all of us were in the green room getting notes, and Michael, Rena had an amazing jump. She was just a phenomenal. She had amazing extension, amazing jump. She could do things. And so Michael, so the ballet mistress was giving her a note, and then, one of the company members had said, had made a comment as to like how beautiful her jumps were. But then the artistic director chimed in with something.
I think I know what you're talking about because I read the interview. I'm gonna just say it. Was it the comment just saying like they all jumped that high in Africa?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
And so I made the mistake of telling my father that when my father came to pick me up, I made the mistake, and it just took all my strength, to just keep him in the car. Because if he had gone in, I mean, for one, I mean, that was something that, that was something that Rena herself would have needed to have said to her. I mean, my father was not her father, so it wouldn't have been appropriate. Or as angry as my father was, he probably would have, oh my God, I can't even imagine. So there were a lot of things we didn't say because we knew what would happen, if we did, and that. So yeah, we kept a lot of things quiet.
I think in our generation, that is a big privilege we have, that we have like a lot of masses surrounding us who are very big on holding people accountable. So it's easy.
A lot of support too, I think, is emphasized, especially with our class specifically, the sophomore class right now.
Oh, yeah.
We have each other's backs and nothing will slide, I don't think, even like the slightest comments even other students make. I think we're all very quick to jump and defend.
So it's very easy for us to speak up and be like, hey, that was wrong. But I feel like back then in that time, you may have not, like, even though you may have wanted to, you didn't have that security or backup, or like it would have automatically turned back on you and you would have faced the consequences.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
Oh, but the second part of that question, how do you think current and future dancers should balance that kind of thick skin, strength, and mentality with speaking up and like sparking change and calling people out?
Very delicately. Well, I think on some level. Okay, here's the thing: if you want to do this business, you all have to be able to take criticism, because there's no way around that. You know what I mean? There's. I mean, even if you were Meryl Streep, you're gonna get criticism. You know what I mean? You're gonna get. People are gonna say things, and especially the way. So you all have now all of this social media. You have Facebook and Snapchat and all of this kind of crazy stuff where people just get on there and just are cruel. We didn't have that. You know what I mean? So, so there was no hiding behind a computer screen to say what you wanted to say. I mean, if the directors and the choreographers didn't like something, they said it on the spot, right to your face. It was, it's like, okay. Blah blah blah. So I think with you guys today, I think it's harder, because you're on all of these devices all the time. I think you're more vulnerable than we were. Now with that, I think you're absolutely right in terms of how. You all are starting to hold, people accountable, which you should. I mean, if they're saying things that are inappropriate, or if they're doing things that are inappropriate, or or things of that nature, then yes, absolutely. You should, you definitely should, say, this is wrong. But you got to do it. You got to, like you kind of said, you got to do it in a way that won't fall back on you. You know what I mean? Because there are still avenues where they can say, or they can, so yeah. So you have to use, like I said, very delicately. I do want to say, I think more so, and it's funny because this what I'm going to say is what they said to us in my generation. Especially about criticism and corrections. I remember when I was in San Francisco Ballet, and we, for some reason, we were having a meeting or a department or something, a company meeting or something. I want to say we were getting yelled at for something. I'm not really sure, probably. But I remember one of the ballet mistresses or ballet master, I forget, saying part of our problem was that so much as who we are, so much of our personalities and so much as who we are as people is wrapped up into our technique, that when we get a correction, we take it personally or as a personal attack. And I want to say that some of that was true. That I can honestly say that I think today with you guys, especially with you guys that are coming up, it's doubly true. I mean, I think so much of who you all are as individuals is wrapped up into your technique that the minute we say, something, I think there's more of an opportunity for it to get misconstrued. So those things are. So I guess I want to say is for you guys today, you've got to, along with having thick skin, you kind of have to know what is constructive criticism and when something is coming at you personally, because they're not always the same. If I'm telling a student, okay, well, and I'll use Dana's phrase, tuck in your haunch, your haunch is sticking out. I'm not trying to say that, you have a huge bottom. I'm just saying, the correction is technically, and if you want to make this work, then you're going to have to, pull up and
rotate.
From the haunch. But now if they, it's possible, depending upon how they're interpreting it, of feel, well, he said, when it wasn't really meant to be that way. So so that's what I would probably say. Very delicately for you guys, very carefully, just have to know what's personal and what's not, and what's constructive criticism and what's not.
I also think there has to be like a sense of logic when we not only and when we're taking in these criticisms and trying to decipher, but also when we act on them, it sometimes comes from such a place of emotion that no matter what we're trying to say, whether it's right or not, nobody kind of take us seriously because we're not coming at them with a logical way that they can understand.
And I feel like a lot of people form such harsh opinions so quickly, even not only with other students, but just with faculty members. Yes. And I think word travels so fast with those opinions that, I don't know, it's just so difficult. It's hard because it's such a small environment and there's so much to get wrapped up in, especially with faculty that is moved around so much. It's hard.
It is hard. But moving on to our next question. So your very succccessful career at EBT, your 7-year-long career, if I'm right?
I think it was 1990, 1996. But about 6 years.
But I saw it was ended by an injury. And this is an experience that I think many professional dancers know well. But what was the experience of redefining who you are as a dancer and redirecting your career path during that time?
That's a good one. I mean, I don't know if I ever saw myself as anything other. Even when I was, no longer on stage or anything like that. I've never considered myself as a part of the normal population and a part of the normal populace, because I feel that dancers, especially ballet dancers, are different. They're a different breed. So I've always kind of thought of myself as, like I'm
Unique.
I wouldn't say necessarily unique, but I would probably say I wouldn't say like a bank teller. That's
You just knew you could never work a 9 to 5. Like dance was, you were an artist.
Yeah, kind of like that. So yeah, I that's I've never really felt anything else other than even right now, even at this moment, it's who I am. And I think here's I think part of that is because I was so young when I started. I think if I had like some men. Or some people, I guess I should say, can start it maybe a little bit later, and and then leave it and do something else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I've never been that way. And I'm actually very impressed. I with some of my old colleagues, or some of my old company members from different companies have retired and transitioned into something totally different. Like one of my best friends, Frank Martinez, when we went PBT together, he left, PBT, eventually, ended up in Los Angeles and as a major fashion designer for, for different, for different television shows like the Tyra Banks show and stuff like that.
Oh my God.
So he doesn't have anything to do with dance at all, and something totally different. And even with that, I don't even think I would be able to do that. I would still have to be involved
Somewhere in this world.
Involved in dance in some way.
All right, I'm gonna transition to being a teacher.
Mm.
So, what characteristics do you think in an up and coming dancer would you align with potential and success?
Say that again. Like that's a hard one too.
Even just like my first semester freshman ballet class with you, like there was a lot of different body types and talents and different ways of moving that we all had. But I felt like you saw something in all of us, even though we were so different. And I just wanted to know, like, was there one like unifying like characteristic that kind of like that you see in a student, or like
I would probably say hardworking. I would probably say, I probably gravitate to the students that really want it. Like you two. So because you gotta.
yeah.
You can't do this business and not really.
Especially at this age. I don't know how some
And at
you
school,
can't-
it's too expensive.
Well, and you can't have it, and that's not just ballet. That's dance. You kind of have to do it. So I think the characteristic of a hardworking, disciplined, and dedicated student is probably now, and I think in my time you had no choice. They just weren't going to allow you to do it if you weren't gonna put everything into it. They just weren't. And then I guess I kind of want to say too, for the African American dancers, especially us that wanted to do ballet. If you weren't hardcore from day one, you really had to push and fight for everything. So I would probably say the students that are really in it to win it are the ones that I gravitate for. So those are the characteristics. I think as a teacher, because here's the thing too, the physical stuff, the legs that go up behind your head and all that kind of stuff, you can do that. I mean,
Me and Lydia like,
well,
I can try.
I'm just saying, but you can achieve that. Let's put it that way. You can achieve that, but somebody that really, really wants it, you can just see it. Like they're gonna, you give them a correction and they fix it on the spot, and you're like, okay. but then there are those you give a correction, you're like,
We need the visual.
I was like, maybe you see the faces you've been making.
then you're kind of like, well, maybe not so much.
Maybe dance isn't real.
Oh gosh.
But, yeah.
Well, not our final, but our second to last question. Just looking at your career path, like from a novice to then going to summer intensives to then being a principal at such a young age and then a director and a company founder. You've done it all. I just mean like you've stayed involved in, I think, this world that you've loved for so long. So what would you say is the key to longevity in the dance world? That maybe could just be tied to when we talked about earlier where you were saying, you just always knew this was where you're supposed to be. But do you think maybe that's just the key, just like knowing that the dance world is your home? Maybe?
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with that. I don't think I would want to do anything else. I mean, I think that's part of it. I certainly. I mean, it's hard, and I have to say there are times when you're just like, oh my God. But then there are times, like I'll take you for instance, when you did 5 pirouettes, and I'm like, oh, stop. And you're just like, and it just makes you feel so good because something got across and you went boom, 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 boom. Or watching you, Lydia, do coupe jeté and a menage in your perfect way. I mean, you got to have balance. There you go. I mean, I think that would probably be, if I'm going to pick a key, that would probably be it. You want to have balance because you're going to have some days when you just look at people and go, Lord have mercy, spare me. And then they're going to have days when you look at people and you just come like, okay, this is why I'm doing it.
I like that answer.
I know, I
balance.
like that one.
I love that.
I'm gonna hit you with some random questions just
Okay.
to lighten up the mood. So, what's your favorite color?
I don't have one favorite color.
Okay.
Top 3.
Well, black and red
Oh,
are my
those are
favorite.
good.
Are my
Okay.
favorite colors.
nice little combo.
What's your favorite place that you've ever traveled to?
Greece.
You
my
lucky.
dream
I want to go to
place.
Greece.
When did you go?
So when I was the director of dance at LaRoche College, well, it's LaRoche University now. I went twice actually. I went to try and get together a study abroad program, and so that's what took me over there, and it's my favorite, But see, one of the things that you guys don't know about,
One of many.
well,
I don't know how to spell your name yet, so hey.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
is that I'm actually an amateur historian.
Okay.
Really?
So part of actually that was my first love before the arts was
God.
ancient history, ancient Egypt, ancient Greece, ancient
I
Rome.
had no idea.
Yeah. So that's all. I mean, now here, so to back that, I was young at that time when I got into that type of thing. I was like 7 or 8, and I remember saying to my mom, I said, I want to be an archaeologist, and my mom was like, why would you want to go dig up dead bones? I was like,
It's fun.
Let me have my fun.
So actually getting a chance to go to Greece and seeing the Acropolis and the Parthenon, Plaka, and just some of the just some of the sites. It was amazing. Athens and Mykonos, and so they were,
Mykonos.
yeah, so they were very beautiful. The Greek islands were just like amazing.
I'm so jealous. That's a dream.
Yeah, I need to go at one point. Oh, but just to close us out, any projects in the work? Anything you wanna share?
So at Seton Hill, I'm kind of their ballet choreographer. So so for their spring productions and things like that, it's called Dance Spectrum, and it encompasses. There's always jazz, there's modern, sometimes there's tap, and I'm usually the one that choreographs the ballet piece. So there, and that is also part of the reason why I don't get to see you guys perform, because you guys are always opposite stuff that I'm doing. But yeah, I mean, so Seton Hill's Dance Spectrum this spring at the end of April, I'm doing a ballet called Salome.
Ooh.
And that has to deal with it's loosely based on the John the Baptist narrative, the John the Baptist, his arrest and execution. There's that, and then my students in Morgantown at Morgantown Dance, I set a section of Cinderella on them, a Cinderella Grand Waltz, that they took to be adjudicated, to be in the West Virginia Dance Festival. And actually, Morgantown Dance took two pieces, mine and then a modern piece, and they both were selected to be in the awesome Dance Festival, which is also going to be at the end of April. So
that's amazing.
So I have a lot kind of going on. There's going to be a lot of running around.
That's good.
Excited for you. And
last thing to close us out. Is it G-I or G-E?
I don't know.
Yes, you do.
You know what's on your birth certificate.
I don't know, because I don't know when my birthday is.
What?
You don't know when your birthday
You're
is?
lying.
Stop lying. I was
because everybody's been trying to find out my birthday.
I was trying to figure it out.
What's your zodiac sign?
I'm not telling.
What?
But I will tell you. Okay, I will tell you this. I will give you guys this. I'm not going to give you guys anything about the birthday, but I will give you guys this in terms of the GIR. I mean, it's kind of so. Okay, so you already know part of it. So when I got my apprenticeship with Hartford Ballet, right? So I was like, wow, I got a job, and so of course they're like, like, well, you have to give them your name and how you want your name and everything to appear in the program. So I was like, ooh, I want a stage name. Because my parents were always talking about like Duke Ellington and all these different people and stars and, Joan Crawford and all these different movie stars, Lena Horne and all them that had stage names. So I'm like, I want a stage name. So when they asked me, how did I want my name to be in the program, I picked Gerard.
Oh.
So it's G-I.
So G-I is the government, G-E is the stage.
Okay.
Of
we
course
have an
you
answer.
do that.
And my parents were not happy. I heard about it. But they didn't stay. But here's the thing again. My father understood it. But that's as much as I'm giving you.
Mystery.
No, that's a good way to end it.
And last thing. Can you give us a little jingle? Just like,
or like a slogan.
a little slogan, a little song. Sing us a little for our podcast.
His face
to
right
close
now.
us out. Like da da da, whatever is coming to you.
Anything.
5, 6,
Yeah.
5, 6, 7, 8.
There it is.
All right.
All right, I'll take it.
Thanks,
Thank you
Gerard.
so
Thank
much
you.
for
It was so
joining
much
us.
fun.
Oh,
Oh, yay.